And hello YouTube, Steve Velocity's back again, doing some weekend filming I guess. So I'm taking it really easy this weekend. Just have a couple things to do for my pallet ripper. Might get that done, but right now I'm working on the last stages of my stationary workbench, and don't really, I want to keep it simple. And I have this idea that's bubbling in my head, so I'll just go ahead and present that, and hopefully it works out. If it looks hideous when I get done, maybe I'll change it. So anyway, it's cooking right here. So here's what I got going. Let me go ahead and see if I can position this here. Okay, so what I did this morning is I finally decided that I was going to screw this down, and I just put 4 screws, and that big Kahuna pallet that I tore apart with those big old screws, if you guys saw that video, they are huge, and just 4 of those screws, pre-drilled holes in the top, and then just kind of screwed it right into the 2x4s underneath, so it's solid. And then I went ahead and installed my vise. I put 2 of the lag bolts here in the front, and I took those same screws in the back, and those are screwed down and bolted, or they're screwed through here right down into the 2x4. And then what I've done is I've taken some basic 2x4 stock right here, and I've screwed it into my big bench, my 8-foot bench right there. And so I'm going with a really simple theme, and I got this pallet here which is not going to come apart in a conventional way. Obviously you can see it's got the composite glue wood compressed thingy going on there, and then if you look at it right here, it's way too thick for, the way it's built for the pallet ripper to get to it. So what I end up having to do is take a sawzall to it, which is cool. And what I want to do is I want to cut it right here. See if I can get a good view there. I want to cut it right here. Cut the nails and have this wood and this wood left. And then once that's cut down, my idea is to take the front section, okay, having a little wrestle match, but this pallet's not going to kick my butt. Alright, so I'm going to take the front there, and the idea is that it's going to be a place, you know how the, what do you call it? I think they're called French, if you laugh at me, that's cool. French cleats. That's where you cut a bevel on the back side, and then you make your tool holders, and you are able to do an opposite bevel, and then set your tool holder in the bevel, and then put your tool in your tool holder. Well, this isn't going to be quite like that, but it is going to have the space here, because if I want to hang a couple of brackets for my tools, then I can just do it right here. And then of course I'll have place to put different things. So it's just an idea bubbling in my head. A lot of times things don't look very good until I get done, and then it's like, wow, that's pretty good. That's how they usually turn out. So I'll go ahead and leave you with that thought, and as soon as I've actually got this cut down and put up, then I'll go ahead and pop in on the video again and let you see what I'm thinking about. Okay, so this is the idea, and aesthetically I like the way it looks. Aesthetically, or whatever, I like how it looks. 2 problems though. Number 1, I want it to be evenly spaced, and there has to be an overhang. Either that, or I have to cut off some and slide everything in a little bit. Also, if I do this, I'm going to lose my plywood storage area behind the big workbench. These are the kind of choices I have to make with such a small shop. So, gotta think about that one. But there's one thing I forgot to mention also. I don't know if you noticed, but since the last video on the stationary workbench, I don't think that I had shown the video of what I did to the surface. What you see is I took boiled linseed oil, because that's what I had on hand, and I went ahead and I treated the bottom, the white pine, and then the top, which is the yellow pine, and brought everything out to its natural color. So it really looks good. You can see the grain pop out big time. And you can see down there, that's the natural color of it, aged and weathered in my garage for the 15 years. And then this is the beautification after I did the boiled linseed oil. I really want to try Danish oil. The only thing I don't like about boiled linseed oil is that it's exceptionally flammable. I had to leave the t-shirt that I used to apply it out in front of my garage, baking in the sun for 5 days. A couple of years back, we hadn't read the directions. We put it in a 5-gallon bucket. A couple days later, I walked by and it's starting to smoke. So that kind of freaked us out. And ever since then, I've been reading labels like I should. So I'm beginning to sound like maybe Tim the Tool Man. I don't know. Actually, he's a little bit better than I am. So anyway, you learn from your mistakes, and hopefully you don't kill yourself or anybody else or burn your house down. So anyway, I think I like this idea. Probably look nicer if I went ahead and had it even with the top of the bench, but I might just sand it down and try to make use of it as it is. I have to hang tools in these two areas, and I need to maximize everything I can. It ought to be fun and interesting. So I think the next thing for me is I'm going to go ahead and sand this down and make it look good. And let's see. I do believe that all of this is pine, including the backboard. And if that's the case, I'm sort of using white and yellow pine, and so I'm not really breaking a fundamental rule of using, well, let's just face it, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to wood. And I've seen on YouTube where, you know, some of the really experienced guys say, you know, use the same type of lumber. And unfortunately on my budget, I have to use whatever I find and hope that it comes out. So I'm going to go ahead and do it and see what happens. And I'll see you after getting done sanding. Okay, so you get the idea. It's already with 80 grit, starting to look really good. You can see the grain coming out. A lot of rough edges, a lot of splinters. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking the 80 grit on all this, and then I'm going to go ahead and 80 grit on the palm sander in the corners and get rid of all this rough stuff. And then once I've done that, then I'm going to have to hand sand this a little bit with 80 grit. And I'll follow it up with 220 on the palm sander, and you'll see it really come out. And then probably do some linseed oil on it after that. So anyway, you know what sanding looks like. Now that I've explained it, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video till the next step. Okay, and that's the idea that I had baking in my head right there. So let me give you a little bit closer look. Kind of move my tripod a little bit here and try not to bang the camera. So what I did is, like I said I was going to do, I did the 180 and then the 220, and then I took the 180 and, or I'm sorry, 80 and 220, And I took the 80 and stapled it to a sanding block and got the middle sections, rounded out of the corners. And of course this pallet, one of the reasons that you spend so much time sanding it out is because forklifts push these things around all the time, and obviously they're going to put all sorts of debris and all sorts of stuff stuck into the wood, that kind of thing. So you really got to clean it up good. It's probably not a good idea unless you've taken all the nails. Well, it's definitely not a good idea. The best case scenario when you're doing pallet wood would be to go ahead and use a planer, like a hand planer or a joiner, and run the wood through that. But I don't have that, so this is what I do for now. So anyway, I've got it. I didn't like it with the gap down here, and so I've got a little bit of a extra 2x4 right here, but it fits snugly up there, and I don't really think it looks bad sticking out. I mean, as I come over to my other work areas, obviously it would be a place where I could hang stuff also. So that's kind of a win-win. Right now my garage is still a mess because it's in a constant state of transition. Mainly I've got lots of tools to segregate between computer repair and between you know, hobbies, construction, woodworking, stuff like that. But you know, I think I'm going to run with it. And it's not too hard to unscrew it and take it down. In the event that I find that I really don't like it, stick it over the edge. I do admit it might look a little cleaner if it was the same width as the top, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So I think I'm going to run with it. The other thing I wanted to point out is, I don't know if any of you are into computer repair, but I bought this for about 70 bucks on Amazon, and it's definitely gotten its use. It's called a Metrovac DataVac, but it's not really a vacuum. It's actually a blower, and this is not the electrostatic version. However, I've been using it for years on computers, and it hasn't done any damage to them. Matter of fact, air is constantly flowing through, and the computers, and we don't deionize the air in them anyway. So I don't see any problem with using these. But anyway, it really works. You can dry your motorcycles with this. You can dry your lawnmower with it. I use it to blow the dust out of the garage because every time I come out here I tend to make a mess. And I also use it to blow out computer cases. So anyway, that's just my plug because that's an absolutely good tool, and I'm tired of buying canned air. So there she goes. I'm going to go ahead and blow it out, and I think I'll give you one more picture, because once I get my garage, you know, all the sawdust out of here and everything cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and put some boiled linseed oil. I'm going to recoat the white pine. I went ahead and sanded down some of the white paint that was still on it. I'm going to do the white pine up top there, and maybe go ahead and do just another light coat on the yellow pine. So, and then what you'll see is this beautiful grain just pop out much better than it does right now. But a lot of good, beautiful grain came out of that wood. So, without further ado, I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done. Alrighty, so I went ahead and on the yellow pine bench top, I went ahead and did another coat, and you can see it takes probably about 12 hours for the oil to dry, basically, and the wood just loves it. You can see how it just brings out the richness in the wood. And then of course on the white pine on the top, I'll give you probably a better close-up. You know, and I went ahead and did the bottom there. So what we have is white pine, yellow pine that has been coated with this stuff, and it actually brings it out pretty good. Let me see if I can give us some close-ups. When you're doing this, you definitely want to do it in a ventilated area, and the oil is very flammable. So what you want to do is, when you're done, like I'll show you down there what I've done. This is last week's rag that's finally dried, that's going to sit outside for the next week, just like that. Sun hitting it, drying it out. If it rains, it will dilute it. That's what you got to do. Keep from burning your house down. So, look at the, it definitely brings it out. This was that dirty old skid. You can see the wood just loves it. I don't know if the video is going to do it justice, but you know, it's got some, I don't know. I just like bringing the grain out in wood. And even though it was a pallet and had all sorts of blemishes, I think it's looking pretty good. And then this entire corner, just a general workbench, sort of has the same look, you know. That's what pallets will do, and construction grade lumber that construction sites are going to burn that you can take. So I think that's going to be it for this particular video. I think the next video will be when I start to design hangers and things like that, places where, or ways to have my tools hung up and stored. And then that should be almost the last phase of this. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate any comments. Subscribe if you like if you like, and until probably next week, Steve Velocity's out.